99% of them have no names, they've disappeared into history, but it doesn't mean it's not art or fine art. So normally I make the exhibitions I make are more like an environment. I want people to really make a voyage to the country, to feel that you're actually there. This is a fine arts museum, so we have done it a little bit different. But what I want to show in this exhibition is the color, the amazing color of Asian puppet theater. That's why we painted the walls a little bit mustard yellow, also to evoke the colors, and to see the puppets as an object of art. So puppet theater was created in every society around the world, in Africa, in Europe, in Asia. It always started with religion. So the first puppets were always the gods that moved. As you know, sometimes we can pray a long time before God, but our family is still sick, people still die. So we need comfort. We need the gods to move, to speak to us. So in the churches in Europe, there were statues of Maria, there were statues of Jesus that could move, that could cry, that could bleed. There were devils that could move and talk. In Africa, there are dancing gods and dancing puppets, deities. So in every country, puppets started as a deity, but we soon found out that they also have a great dramatic quality. And soon, puppets, masks, all evolved into theater. Now in Asia, like in Africa, we didn't have a renaissance. So there was no clear division between the secular and the religious. So in Africa and Asia, the gods are on stage every day. There's no division. So all theater in Asia is in a religious context. Every performance of this, for instance, glove puppet theater is always in the temple, is always for a god. It's a gift to the gods, and we mortals stand between the stage and the gods. We're allowed to watch as well, but it's a religious theater. It's also a music theater. So the orchestra in Asia is always much bigger than the puppeteers. So usually 2 or 3 times the amount of musicians compared to the amount of puppeteers. And puppet theater was also the Wikipedia of Asian culture. Everything was inside: life, death, love, kings, queens, clowns, villains, and heroes that we will see in this exhibition. Because, like in Asia and before in Europe, most people were illiterate. Most people lived very far away. There was hardly any traffic between the big cities and the countryside. So how did you get your information about your king, your queen, how to fall in love, how to die, how to do all these things? You saw it through the stories or through the theater. So it's visualized in the theater. And that's also, in our modern day and age, a bit sad. Why do we have so many, over 10,000 puppets in our collection? Because of television, because of Hollywood, because, I don't blame Hollywood, but that's a reality. Everybody watches the same things on TV now. So all people under 50 years of age grew up watching Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. So everything is changing, and these puppet theater companies are disappearing. Many of these companies disappear, and that's in one way a natural thing. On the other way, it's a sad thing, because it's a disappearing culture in many countries. It's becoming a folk show for tourists. So if you go to India, to Rajasthan, in your hotel, people will do a few funny, great shows, bravo, and then it's finished. No more 4-hour, 5-hour performances with music. In China as well, this beautiful, in Taiwan, this beautiful type of puppet theater. Before it was a 3-4 hour performance. Nobody has the time or the patience to look at a show like that. Also, the stories are traditional stories, so they doesn't really relate to our modern society. But we're going into exhibition now, and you'll see that there are some traditions, like in Thailand or in Taiwan, who are modernized. So there are anything like cars appear on stage, striptease, anything can be used. So some genres fossilize and some continue to develop. Now just about this small room here, this is a traditional stage from southern China, from the 19th century. We're very lucky in our museum, we still have 5 of these stages. They're only used in Taiwan now. In China during the Cultural Revolution, all of these stages were burned and destroyed, and most puppets were destroyed. So what was left in Taiwan is preserved, and people still perform with these puppets. These are the smallest glove puppets in the world. A very detailed way of, the puppets are carved of camphor wood. Why camphor wood? You know mothballs, these little white balls you put. They are made of camphor wood because woodworm hates this type of wood. And a puppet head is very expensive, so you can keep it in a very tropical environment for a long time. A conservation problem is if it gets too dry, they crack because it's a tropical wood. So just the level of humidity in our museum is a very big problem because we have many different types of wood, leather, and just to get the right humidity is very important. When we have an exhibition, for instance, in Colorado in the United States, where the humidity is 30 to 40%, we need to have humidifiers to keep the space wet enough or humid enough. So these beautiful puppets, there were special people who made costumes, embroidery shops that made costumes for actors, big costumes. The cloth that was left was used to make puppet costumes. There's people who especially did the hairstyles, because it's real human hair, and very detailed hairstyles that you can see, for instance, for that puppet. And here we have a few of our string puppets. There are 4 countries in Asia that have a string puppet tradition. It's the oldest type of puppeteer in Asia. So in India, in one of the earliest notes is Sutradhara, which means the director, but the man who pulls the strings. And here we see a very nice collection. The 4 countries in Asia, the main traditions are India and China, but also in Sri Lanka and Burma we have a very well-developed string puppet tradition. These strings can vary a lot, but normally there are 14 strings. There's some nice puppets. This is one of the oldest puppets in the exhibition, which is very rare because it was dated and the name of the carver is on it. So it's from the 1850s. The silk is very fragile, so we shouldn't exhibit it at all. But anyway, this is Kim's museum, so we have this puppet, and here we have some puppets from Burma. Sri Lanka, the largest string puppets in Asia. This is from West Bengal in India, and of course Rajasthan tradition. And the most important and now the most famous tradition in southern China is from Quanzhou. It's on the coast in Fujian. This is the most elaborate Chinese tradition. So going inside the horse is from Burma. So the Burmese tradition is also fantastic with a huge orchestra, beautiful music. We're going inside, so there's, we brought too many things, so it's a little bit cramped inside. We're first going to have a look at the shadows. The shadow theater is the most original form of Asian theater. It developed in Asia, probably in India, into China and different Asian countries. It's the earliest television, flat screen and large screen. It's an amazing way of storytelling. In China it developed, I think, to the highest and most sophisticated level. So I think we can all walk in and have a look at the shadows. Okay, so pay attention to the Thai shadows, because southern Thailand, there's a development of doing really modern shows with ninjas and anything goes. what is interesting in Asian puppet theater is like, in the Western theater, the heroes are beautiful, the bad people are ugly, and the clowns are ugly. So that's a rather sad human condition, that we love to make fun of people who are into it. Yes, people who are look like this, we think it's amazingly funny. So there's a lot of theory about it. Why do we make fun of people who are worse off than us? But it's a normal human thing, and you can find the clowns in these different puppets. They're either too fat, they have huge heads, they're really ugly, but at the same time they're very important, because many gods in the Asian theater are children. All they are clowns, because they speak the truth. So the our god of the theater in southern China and Taiwan is a young boy. The god of the theater in Vietnam is a young, funny boy who makes lots of jokes. So it's very interesting that these important characters whom we laugh about are clowns at the same time. In Indonesia, you have the clown spelled Sepot. He has his own television program. He's one of the few persons who are allowed to criticize the government on TV. So puppet theater was always seen as a threat. The first time we know of puppet theater in London was that it was forbidden. The first time that we know about puppet theater in Egypt was that it was forbidden and everything was destroyed. The first time that we knew about puppet theater in southern China was that it was forbidden. So why is that? Because puppet theater is very democratic. If there's no audience, it doesn't exist. So people go to the performance, everybody will all come together, and this puppet wants us to be happy and interested. So he says, well, the price of rice, it's crazy over there. It's so expensive. And everybody in the public says, yeah, it's very expensive, we have to do something about it. So it gets people together and makes them think about things. So puppet theater, it was often, because it's the art of the people, forbidden. The last time in Taiwan it was forbidden was in the 1970s on television, because it created a Taiwan identity away from China. So because of that reason it was forbidden. In China, in the countryside, religious theater about hell is forbidden. So puppet theater is still something that is a little bit dangerous as well. Okay, well, it's a very small room, so I invite you just to look around and try to find your heroes, your villains, your clowns, and your gods. If you have any questions, you can just come over here and ask me.
Besides the kind of puppetry being used in the special effects and movies, what is the greatest level
Before that art, often art is in all the art you see here, the creation by thousands of men, women, and children, carved